Biden.
Hey, guys. Whoa. It's good to be home. Whoa. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, thank you. This may go to my head. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, as they say in parts of my old neighborhood in Scranton, you guys brung me to the dance. And you really did. And I just want you to know I had permission to hug Lonnie. We had permission. I don't know, man. Anyway, look, it's great to be with you, for real. Lonnie, the international president, has done such an incredible job, along with Kenny and Secretary General and Mike, Director of Construction and Maintenance. But before I begin, I want to say something to you all. Congratulations. And here's what I mean by that. Congratulations, because you guys are leading the union movement back. 2017, Baltimore Gas and Electric, 1,418 new brothers and sisters. Biggest in 125 years. 2018, Atlanta Gas and Light, 700 new brothers and sisters. And it keeps going on. Look, we're coming back. You are coming back. We need you back. When I look out at this crowd, let me tell you what I see. I see my old neighborhood in Claymont and Scranton. I see the backbone, and no, this is not hyperbole. I see the backbone of the nation. I see people not only are smart, but people with physical courage to do the things your members have to do. I see people who risk their lives going up in those bucket and trucks after raging storms, and sometimes during them, working around the clock to power communities. People take it for granted. Climbing up that damn pole, you risk your life. We used to understand that. Ironworkers back in Delaware, a guy named Tommy Schrank, when they endorsed me as a kid running for the Senate, I used to go in, and I meant it sincerely. I'd go into the hall, and I'd say, I can't get over you guys. I admire your courage. 17 stories up, walking a beam, shooting a rivet, and people saying, is what they do worthwhile? Come on, man. I see the people in this room who represent the people and are part of the people who make manufacturing go. I see the people who lead the way to safer and cleaner energy. An energy future that's going to be done by repairing over 1 million miles of 2 million miles of leaky pipelines. Most of it put back in the 1960s. I see people who will build a 21st century electric grid that will not only power this nation's economy, but protect this nation from foreign adversaries and the way they use cyberspace and the rest to go after us. I see people who have busted their necks their whole lives to earn their pensions. And when you retire, you deserve every damn penny you work for, not a penny less. I mean it. I mean it. I'm tired of it. Look, it's not right. I see people like millions of people across this nation who get up every single day, go to work, raise their families, pay their taxes, volunteer in their communities, and make the country work. And all you're looking for is to be treated fairly, with respect, with some dignity. Because you matter. Look, think about it this way. This is how I think about it, not a joke. And we used to think about it. How my family and my neighborhood thought about it. There is no possibility Any of those guys and women making millions of bucks on Wall Street, doing good work wherever they're doing and doing very well, they could not function without the work you do. Literally, it's impossible to make the country function without what you do. And don't you forget it. Don't you forget what you do. We've gotten so damn sophisticated. We've gotten so damn elitist. Just like I hope you guys understand. When that storm comes and the storm sewer's overflowing and some poor sucker's out there cleaning it, you owe him or her a thanks. They make life work for us. And I hate the way things have changed over the last 15 to 20 years. Folks, let me ask you a question. How do we get to the place where people who build bridges, repair our roofs, keep our water systems going, teach our kids, take care of our sick parents, our children, run into burning buildings rather than away from them, grow our food, build our cars, pick up the garbage off our streets, iron workers, steel workers, boiler makers, plumbers, electrical workers? How the hell do we get to the place where a lot of you don't think the rest of the country sees you or hears you or knows you? Or maybe most important, respects you, literally respects you for what you do. I tell all my sophisticated friends, they say, well, that's, that's respect. What are you talking about? I said, you do a job. You hope if you do it well, your colleague's going to say, good job. It matters. It matters how we treat people. It matters how we talk to them. You guys are like me. I never walk away from a table without thanking the waiter. Not a joke. That's how I was raised. My father was a white collar. If you listen to Barack, you'd think he climbed out of a coal mine with a lunch bucket in his hand from Scranton. Joe Biden from gritty Scranton. They really resent that in Delaware. But my dad was a guy who literally taught us, not a joke. He said, every single person, not a joke, deserves to be treated with dignity. I've never once saw my father, never once saw my father, whether he's walking into the DuPont building and the CEO walked by, to say hi and say hi to the shoe shine guy. I never once saw my father not treat every one of his employees. He was a general manager of a large car dealership. I never once saw him didn't treat Bruce. He thought the worst thing that could happen, the worst sin of all, was the abuse of power, economic power, political power. He said the cardinal sin was for a man to raise his hand to a woman or a child. But my father insisted that everybody be treated with respect. Hello, how are you? Great job, thanks. Simple, basic things that let people know what they do matter. Their work matters. Their job matters. They matter. Let me tell you something. And this is not a political statement, this is a statement of fact. This country was not built by Wall Street bankers and CEOs and hedge fund managers. A lot of good people, they're decent people. It was built by the great American middle class, the most significant economic power in all of it, for real. That's the American story, a story of ordinary people from the neighborhoods you and I grew up in, going out and giving half a chance and doing extraordinary things. And how do you think we built the great middle class? I've been saying this for 45 years. Unions. Unions. That's a fact. Unions. Some politicians are afraid to use the word union. Not me. Unions built this middle class. For real. I think we even forgot it. I think we've forgotten. My grandpa Finnegan used to say, Joey, you're union from belt buckle to shoe sole. He said it more colorfully than that. If you have any doubt that you guys and women built the middle class, just think about it. The sacrifices you made, all the dues you paid, the picket lines you've walked, the negotiations you've sweated through, all those sacrifices, they didn't just benefit you. They benefited every American worker. Now here's the deal, guys. There's no one who has done more, including the political system, congressmen, senators, governors, no one who has done more for non-union labor than unions. It's just a fact. Minimum wage, overtime pay, 40-hour week, weekends off. I could go on for the next 5 minutes. All those rights exist because you and my family, way back in the days of Scranton, fought for those things. Non-union workers have rights because of the sacrifices you've made. And here's the good news. For the last, I'd say close to 20 years, they kind of forgot it. They kind of bought into this new, right-wing economic theory that, unions are greedy, they're this, they're that. The very people you gave those rights to. But now they're beginning to realize it. You know why? And most of you probably don't even focus on this. Most Americans know. I spoke at the business school at Northwestern University with, 300, 400, 500 graduate students out there. And I think what I said to them surprised them. About 40%, or about 40 million hourly workers have to sign a non-compete agreement to get a job. Used to be you couldn't work for Jimmy John's making sandwiches unless you agreed you would not compete within X number of miles for another job. So you couldn't go to McDonald's and get a 10-cent increase in your wage. Literally, not a joke. Not a joke. What's that all about? Nothing other than suppressing wages for stockholders. Reclassification. That's one of the things that Secretary of Labor and I were very proud of having done. They turned it around in this administration. Reclassifying hourly workers as management. The woman who's stacking the ragu spaghetti in the supermarket, if she controls the guy or the woman with the wagon to bring the spaghetti out and pallets, she's now a manager. You know how much that cost hourly workers? $10 billion. $10 billion not getting paid for overtime. Folks, look, average Americans are realizing they've been getting the shaft in the name of using you. I said, you may remember, Lonnie, the AFL-CIO, I said 5 years ago, actually now 7 years ago, the Chamber of Commerce has declared war on Labor's house. It's been a constant, unrelenting war. All for one reason: drive down wages and benefits to raise stockholders' value. Not a joke. But people are starting to figure it out. Even a lot of Democrats, myself included, I didn't realize all these new non-compete agreements, an hourly worker, non-compete. If you are a hair braider, you braid people's hair, you have to get a license to do something like 400 hours of training in another state to move in to be able to braid hair. I mean, it's all about, I'll be more careful. It's all about not helping the worker. One of the things I love about the IBEW is this. you get what my father has always said. When my father left Scranton, when Cole died, he was a salesperson. There were no good jobs. The community was dying. I remember him walking up the stairs of my grandpa's house, sitting at the end of my bed. I think it's the longest walk any parent can make, to tell their kid, honey, you can't go back to the same school. We're losing the house, honey. We can't live there anymore. You're going to go home and live with Grandpa. It's only going to take about a year. Hey, all those kids, you want to come up on the stage, you can come up. It's okay. Come on up. Come on up. Just come and sit here. Come on. Any kids can come up. So, how you doing? What's your name? Hi, Nick. By the way, guys, nothing artificial about. If we don't win, if you don't win, you got a problem. If you win, we win, their future. Right, you realize 54% of the American people think their children will never reach the standard of living they've reached. That's never happened before. 54%. And you guys can sit in the edge or what? I don't want you to have to stand all alone, but it's up to you. By the way, he gave me permission to touch him. All right? Why don't you just sit in the room right there? Sit right here. I don't want you to have to stand. I'm sorry to take so long, guys, but everyone knows I like kids better than people. But look, my father, when we moved down to Claymont, every time there'd be a recession, like the neighborhood you guys grew up in, somebody in the family lose a job or get laid off. It may be temporary, but, you know, a neighbor. My dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Think about it. That's what a job's about. It's so much more than a paycheck. But a lot of people can't do that today. As I said, they don't believe that their children are going to be in the same position they were. They feel hopeless. They feel left out. Fear has crept into so many places around this country. So many times in our past, the worst among us, act like in the past, are preying on those fears to divide us. Why are you not have a job? Why are you getting a low-paid job? It's the other. It's the other. It's that immigrant. It's that black guy. It's that divide us. Divide us. It's an ugly extremism. It's on the rise in this country. We saw it most vividly in Charlottesville when Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis came out of fields, crazed faces illuminated by torches with bulging veins, burying the fangs of racism, chanting literally the same anti-Semitic bile. The same anti-Semitic bile chanted in the streets of Nuremberg and Berlin in the 30s. A mean pettiness has overtaken our politics the last decade. Sometimes it seems like we can't govern ourselves because we don't talk to one another anymore. We barely talk to one another. My whole career, I've been able to get a lot of things done. I know I'm being criticized by some on the far left that I have actually think we should work with Republicans. But how do you get something done? Look, folks, this is not who we are. This is not the America we've known, we've grown up in. We have to remember what it is that makes this nation so special. And it's our core values. It's what we believe. It's the American creed. It sounds corny. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. As I said, it sounds corny, but it's who we are. We've never fully lived up to it, to Jefferson's words, but we've never before walked away from them. Just walked away from them. I believe there's something the columnist David Brooks, conservative columnist in the Times, calls an invisible moral fabric he talks about that holds the nation together. It's made up of basic values, the values that define us: honesty, decency, dignity, respect, giving everyone a fair shot, leaving nobody behind, giving hate no safe harbor, and leading by the power of our example, not just the example of our power. That's why the rest of the world has followed us. We are the shining hill, as Reagan said, the shining city on the hill, standing as a beacon for the world. But most importantly, we used to always understand as Americans that we're part of something bigger than just us. Something bigger than us. That's who we are. That's who we've been. That's who your parents were, your grandparents were. These are the values that made us the most respectful and successful nation in the history of the world. Not hyperbole. But look how we're viewed now. You know, there used to be a basic bargain in America. You guys know it better than anybody. It said that if you're a part of building the success of an enterprise, you got to share in the benefits. You got to share in the profits. Not now. If an enterprise is hit hard, it used to be, everybody took a hit. The CEO, the managers, the hourly workers. But that bargain's been broken. Now the only people who benefit when a company does well are the CEOs and the shareholders, the people at the top. As I said, Republicans have adopted the conservative economist Milton Friedman's dicta in the late 80s when he said, a corporation only has one responsibility to its shareholders. That's an economic theory, only to its shareholders, not its employees, not to the community in which it resides, not to anybody but the shareholders. That's why you see these tens of billions of dollars of buyback of stock rather than reinvestment in training and expansion. Since when is that how we've run? I have a cartoon in my office. The president used to always come in and try to jokingly turn around. There's some in the New Yorker. I still have it in my office at Penn. It's a picture of a great big rotund guy from New York Magazine in a black turtleneck, black mask, and a black beret, sitting at the end of a table like this. And the other end of the table is an interrogator, not on the other side, the other end. And there's a great big burlap bag in the middle with a dollar sign on it. And he's looking at the interrogator and saying, I'm sorry, how was I supposed to know he was a job creator? You know, since when did my dad, who sold all those GM products, the guys in the assembly line in Delaware who made those products, the mechanics who kept them running, since when did they not contribute to the success of General Motors? But it used to be, as I said, everybody took a hit, but now the only people who get hurt when a company hits a rough patch are the workers. It's a one-way street. I couldn't remain silent after General Motors because I was the guy that was given blame and credit for bailing out, being the loudest voice in the administration for bailing out General Motors, an iconic industry, because I knew the capability of American labor. And American labor, the UAW took a big hit to get that done. The first year back, General Motors made $8 billion in profit. In 2018, they made $8 billion in profit. Just a few years after being bailed out by all of you, the American taxpayer. The CEO, good woman, CEO and top executives, the shareholders, they did incredibly well. Then the market turned on 4 of their products, maybe 5. GM hit a rough patch. So what happens? They close plants, lay off 17,000 UAW workers, announce they're going to build new facilities in Mexico, and the GM salary, the head of General Motors, goes from $22.9 million a year to $21.9 million. That year alone, they made $150 and I think it was $194,000. $1 million in a tax break. They could have given every one of those 17,000 people laid off a $10,000 severance pay to give them a chance to go somewhere. They could have come back and built those facilities of new electric car facilities in the United States. But guys, now it's every single cent you save. Where is the social responsibility? What's wrong? It's economically wrong and it's morally wrong. Sometimes I think President Trump is a tragedy in two acts. The first tragedy is that he treats and opposes every day the core values and beliefs of our nation, the things that go to our very democracy, the way he talks to people, the way he characterizes them. A guy who's the head of the intelligence community calls him a pencil neck. I mean, what in the hell is happening? Our children are listening. Second tragedy is he's so consumed with personal grievances, so obsessed with the past, that for 3 years now, America has been focused on the past, not the future. Well, this president wages war on Twitter and insults his opponents, attacks our most important institutions, the courts, the press, the Congress, inflames our nation's oldest wounds of racism and hate. The rest of the world's passing us by. Whether it's China is now focusing on 5G, or the rest of the world's embrace of the Paris Climate Accords, look around. None of these countries are waiting. No one's waiting. We better wake up. This country can't afford more years of a president looking to settle personal scores. This country can't afford 4 more years of a president lacked in the past and grudges. We've got to get moving. You guys know better than anybody else. You know the 21st century electrical grid can mean America, a great deal for America, both in terms of our economy and our national security. You know the skills and job training that are needed to handle that new grid. You know the kind of good-paying jobs that are great. You know these are jobs of the future. Whether it's working with community colleges or job training programs, apprentice programs, you know how to get it done. Some things. The same thing goes across the board, from repairing and replacing those pipelines that were put in the ground in the 60s, a couple million miles of it. Protect our environment, prepare us for climate change. It will create a whole lot of good union-paying jobs if we do it. It's good for the middle class. This is a win-win situation. The kind of jobs you can raise a family on. You know, one of the great things you've done as a union is to make a commitment to diversity, opening your doors, including everyone. Because what's true of unions is true of America. You're stronger, we're stronger when everyone's in on the deal. And you're proof of something that I couldn't believe more strongly. That as we rebuild this middle class, which has been clobbered, this time, everyone comes along. Black, white, Latino, men, women, young, old, everyone. We can do this. It's time to put our petty politics aside. It's time to start talking with one another again. Politics. It's in politics. They're our opponents, not our enemies. You know, you had to get something done. Because I've been part of getting things done my whole career, it's time for America to start thinking big again, for God's sake. This is the United States of America. It starts with a complete overhaul of our nation's education. We have to start educating our kids sooner. We know so much more now. Every single university and expert in the world acknowledges that our kids get to kindergarten or first grade. By that time, much of their brain is already developed. We need even more focus on them in early education. We have to face up to the fact that 12 years of education is no longer enough. Community college should be free, and we can afford it, guys. We can afford it. Not a joke. We don't have to punish anybody. We can increase from 6 to 9 million qualified people in community colleges, increasing the GDP by 0.2% a year by eliminating just one of the $1.640 trillion of tax loopholes. It's called stepped-up basis. You go out and you make a big profit, you're about to go cash it in, pay a capital gains tax, and you get hit by a truck. You leave it to your son or daughter, good people. They pay no tax. It's not an inheritance tax. It was a tax due 12 seconds earlier. That's $17 billion a year out of $1.600+ billion. It costs $6 billion a year to put everyone in a community college who's qualified, and that loophole is $17 billion. You can take the other 11 and reduce the deficit, for God's sake. No one gets hurt. No one gets hurt. Look, folks, we need to invest in job training, apprenticeship programs, which you do, not only after high school, post-high school, but in high school. Look around the country now. When we grew up, you could learn whether or not you liked working with your hands. You had shop, you had automotive kinds, you had they don't exist in 90% of the schools anymore. What the hell's the matter with us? I did a study for the president, the jobs of the future. We need, for example, 57,000 more plumbers, 77,000 more, the list goes on. And you can make a decent wage. We should work to generate a consensus. Democrats and Republicans, we used to know one another. If I know your husband or your wife, and you're a senator or a congressman, and I know they have breast cancer, or I know that you have a son or daughter with a opioid addiction, or I know you just lost your brother or sister, it's hard to dislike you. I know you. I make a personal connection. Make a personal connection. And we can work together to compromise. But when we don't even know one another, what happens? What happens? We attack each other. We attack each other based on motive. You're in the pocket of unions, Biden. You're in the pocket of big this. You're in the pocket of that. Hard to get to yes and a compromise when you can't even talk to one another. Democrats and Republicans can do better. Look, if we were building America today from scratch, we wouldn't just have a 12-year education system. The reason why we led the world beginning of the 20th century is because we're the only nation in the world that had universal 12 years of public education. That's what built this country. Built you and what you built. So folks, my wife, Jill, who's a community college professor, says it best. She said, any country that out-educates us is going to out-compete us. It's just that simple. It's that basic. And I don't just mean high school. I don't just mean college. I mean in trades. I mean in all the new important technologies we have to master that don't require college degrees but require considerable knowledge. We need to take the next step to rebuild our healthcare system. The Affordable Care Act was a big step. You guys have fought for and been able to guarantee health care for your employees, your members. We need to build on it. What we can't do is blow it up and cause 22 million people that Barack and I were able to put on health care, give them peace of mind. I remember my dad, when he went from one company to another, lost his health insurance. And my mom said he stared at the ceiling at night, just worried, what happens? What happens if I get sick? What happens when my wife gets sick? We lose everything. It's peace of mind. If you remember, when we passed the Affordable Care Act, President Obama, I said something in effect, this is a big deal. I swear to God, I turned around this way, whispered in his right ear, and I swear somebody had to read my lips because it wasn't on. Anyway, thank God my mom wasn't around. I'd be dead. But look, it was a big deal. Obamacare is how we finally protected people with pre-existing conditions. Obamacare is how we made it possible for kids to stay in their parents' policies till they were 26, and so much more. And folks, every day I worked alongside the president as vice president, but I was never more proud to have participated in anything other than passing that bill. And as you all know better than anyone, we need a massive commitment to rebuilding our infrastructure. Republicans used to support infrastructure. What happened? The Erie Canal was built by a Republican governor, for God's sake. And we can do it by leveraging public money and private investment. But we can't wait. We can't have the 21st century economy and a 19th century infrastructure. We need to face the facts that climate change are coming. And it's here. No amount of burying our heads in the sand is going to change that. Look at what just happened to the U.S. Strategic Command in Nebraska because of the flooding of the rivers out there in Nebraska. Seriously impacted on our nuclear deterrence. Flooded out our base in the United States of America. The Strategic Air Command was rendered in a very precarious position because of climate change. It's not only a threat, it's an incredible opportunity. By moving to clean energy, by setting higher fuel standards for our cars, by limiting emissions from our power plants, by fortifying our cities and our coastlines, by facing up to just how many military bases here in the United States and abroad in the world are subject to rising tides, low-lying installations. We have to prepare. But it will create jobs, make us stronger. And one last thing, we need big goals to inspire this nation. For me, that means ending cancer as we know it. And we can do it. For too many people in this nation, far too many people in this room, you have gone through or going through what my family went through when we lost my beau, my son. Cancer is brutal, unforgiving, and no family ever has to go through that again, as my goal will not be too soon. Ending cancer, as you know, it is a worthy national goal, and it's going to take a president to do it. It's within our power. We're making enormous pressure. You know why? Because we're forcing these guys to work with one another again. Docs don't play well in the sandbox together. They're wonderful, work like hell, but sharing data is not something that has been available till now. When I finished the moonshot in the administration, 21 heads of cancer hospitals and 5 Nobel laureates and a number of people came to me and said they wanted me to set up a Biden cancer initiative. I said, I've read everything I can about cancer and its cures and what needs to be done. But I said, I'm no expert. I said, why me? He said, you do two things well. You can convene people and you can shame them. I thought, that's a hell of a thing. But folks, I can honestly say I'm more optimistic today than when I got elected as a 29-year-old kid, not just about what we can do to cure cancer, but about America. America's in a better position, I'll end with this, than we've ever been in our entire career if we just get up off our feet, our backside, stand up, remember who the hell we are. We have the largest economy in the history of the world. We have the most powerful military in all of history. We have the most innovative entrepreneurs in the world. We have more great research universities in America than all the rest of the world combined. As my wife would say, Google it. We have the most agile venture capitalists. We have the most productive workers in the world. That's a fact. 3 times as productive as workers in Asia. We're virtually energy independent. Something no one thought of before. Folks, there's no reason why we can't own the 21st century. There's no reason why we can't. We just have to get out of our way. Remember who the hell we are. Folks, with you and your brothers and sisters in the movement, remembering who we are, that this is the United States of America. There's nothing we are incapable of doing. Nothing. So let's get the hell up and get it done. Thank you. Thank you.